All right. We have Representative Nancy Tate here with us.
Hello. How are you all?
We're doing well. How are you, ma'am?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Well, it's been an interesting night, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. We've been going through looking at all of these, and they've called all of them now. So we kind of see the lay of the field for every single constitutional office that's out there. And we already hold it as Republicans, every single one of them, except for the governor's race or the governor's position. And so it looks like it's going to be a Daniel Cameron, Andy Beshear showdown.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to that, aren't you?
I absolutely am.
Absolutely. It'll give us the opportunity to talk about the truth and to talk about things that have actually been transpiring here in the Commonwealth that a lot of people don't know up to this point.
Yes. And for those of you that are watching, this is Representative Nancy Tate from the 27th District. And she has all of Meade County and some of Hardin County as well. We both joined each other in our district. And so she has been a great person to work with in the legislature. She has definitely been a champion on the pro-life scene. And I tell her every time that she carries one of those huge pro-life bills that I won't insult how short that you actually are. I don't know, but she looks like a giant standing over there carrying those bills because they push back hard out on her, and she never wavers at all. She just sticks to the truth, and she's been great to work with, and so I'm proud to work with you. We were talking a little bit, Nancy, about when you came in to the legislature. It was a very close race the first time around with a long-term incumbent, and it's just neat watching how every election plays out and what all the nuances are and things of that nature. But you won by like 6 votes, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, the first year I won by 6 votes. And to your point, it was a 12-year incumbent. So I think I had like a 10% chance of winning and won by 6 votes.
Oh, wow. And how was it this next time around? How much did you win by that time?
Yeah, so the following term, then I won by 3,300.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then this last term, then I was unopposed.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's moving in a good direction there.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir. And I think a lot of it is just basically walking in and doing what you say you're going to do.
That's right.
That's good. Did you have any report? We had talked to Representative Doan earlier, and he had talked about voter turnout seemed pretty low. How did it seem in your area where you voted at?
You know, as a matter of fact, I don't even know yet. I haven't been following, so I'm not real sure. We were expecting like a 10% voter turnout, which is very unfortunate. Right. But, you know, the year that I won, I had a pretty tight primary. And the year that I won, there was only a 13% turnout. So, you know, and that's of registered voters, right? Yes. That's, you know, so that's really, really, really unfortunate, you know, because this is one of the most sacred privileges that we have. It separates us from all the other countries in the world. And so it's very sacred, and it's just really sad that more people don't get involved.
Well, and I think we can see, like in your case especially, then even though the voter turnout was low, it produced a good candidate.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate
Well, I mean, you can say that based on how people have turned out to vote for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, do you think that is kind of a general rule that you know, do you have any kind of idea about, does that generally produce good candidates? You know, in this election, we have a low voter turnout. Everybody's going to wonder, you know, how Daniel Cameron's going to do against Andy Beshear. There's a lot of statistics that kind of, you know, might show that. How are you feeling going into the general election?
Well, so I'm real excited about this. Like I said, I think we have a great opportunity to tell the true story, to tell a story, to tell how Daniel Cameron has actually acted as our Attorney General.
Right.
And so therefore, that gives us a perfect opportunity to know how he's going to act as our governor.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I've said about Andy Beshear is that I didn't like him as an Attorney General because he did not represent the legislative branch or the executive branch, which which is exactly what he's supposed to be doing. So what he demonstrated was his inability to work with other people, and that's exactly how he's demonstrated as the governor, that he is unable to work with the legislative branch and other branches. I just got an email that basically says that we got a 13% turnout in Meade County.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I was talking to Aaron a little bit ago, and maybe some of your perspective, that it's important that we win this election when it comes to the governor's race, for sure. Vital. And what can we encourage people? How do we tell people what they can do and encourage people to engage in the process between now and November? What can the general public be doing to try to make sure that Daniel Cameron wins this race?
Well, I don't know, and I think that's a great question. I don't know if you all had the opportunity to look at the Right to Life questionnaires, the responses from the candidates, and then also the responses for the Commonwealth Policy Center. Of course, you're not going to find a Democrat that's going to respond. Really, right. This is true. You're not going to find a Democrat today that's going to respond to the Kentucky Right to Life questionnaire. But there were Andy Beshear. It looked like he responded to the Commonwealth Policy Center. I think all of the candidates. Let me think. Pepe replied. Kelly Craft did not reply. But you have Cameron, Quarles, Andy Beshear. And so Daniel Cameron was the only person that unwaveringly has supported pro-life from conception to natural death, religious freedom, and the Second Amendment.
Oh, wow.
So any conservative or any moderate, basically, even in the Commonwealth, should completely and totally look at Daniel Cameron and consider him to be a very qualified candidate that we all want to support.
Right. And I've said this several times, and I know this has been your heart, and one of the primary reasons why you're in the legislature is that if a person doesn't support life, they're going to break down in every other area. It's the basis of all morality. So
that's exactly right.
And I know that Attorney General Beshear pushed back on pro-life legislation. Governor Beshear has pushed back on pro-life legislation. And I think it's great to have a candidate, like you said, that actually has a track record already of moving forward what the legislative body has produced in the state of Kentucky, based on the fact that the public put the legislature there.
Right. The thing that's, and what I like to do is I like to say that I truly think I try to be and strive to be a constitutional purist. And so as we know, anybody that knows the Constitution knows that absolutely right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the basis for our Constitution. Religious liberty is the basis of our Constitution, and the Second Amendment is the basis of our Constitution. If we cannot recruit and elect candidates to those positions, then we absolutely, we're taking those oaths. And when I take an oath, I take it extremely seriously. And those three things are three of the most important things that are in our Constitution.
Yes. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's great. That was really interesting statistics that you gave, or endorsements that you gave from about Daniel Cameron. I think that we were talking to Representative Doan earlier, and it seems like I know this isn't the case, but it almost seems like that the election snuck up on the candidates. It's kind of what it seems like to the general public. I know that Daniel Cameron didn't really have to didn't have to get a lot of name recognition, and I know Kelly Craft was working very hard. But from the general public's perspective, then it just seems like it snuck up on everybody. Is there a reasoning behind that you know of, or is it just kind of the rule of the day when it comes to primaries?
It's the rule. It appears to me like that actually, I'd like to use the 80-20 concept, that 80% of the population doesn't even start paying attention till we're like a month out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's, and I guess, people are really busy doing their thing and, just living and, trying to work and make a living and taking care of your children and whatever we do on a daily basis. And I think that everybody just, doesn't even raise their head up, doesn't even care until we're right at the very end.
I wish I would have counted how many phone calls and texts that I've got today from people, on the way to the poll. Who are we voting for today? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? And one, Nancy, that was extremely interesting to me was the treasurer race.
Yeah.
So
me too.
I thought that was interesting. I felt like that with OJ having served there as the deputy treasurer and having Allison Ball supporting his candidacy, verbally, and then with Andrew Cooperrider having that race that he ran, the Senate race, and the publicity that he has gotten. And to be honest, I've seen Mark out in some places and met him a few times and heard him speak, and seems like a nice guy and everything. But from that race seemed like nobody had any major name ID, and the way that it came out, that was just an interesting race to me.
Absolutely. I think that was probably the one surprise that I have. I really thought that Dr. Oleka would do better, to your point, because he has served under Allison Ball. Allison Ball, as you know, anybody that knows Allison Ball knows that she's absolutely a great candidate. She's somebody that that you can trust. She's going to do the right thing every time. But the only thing about Dr. Oleka that surprised me was he probably thinks that he campaigned, but I never saw him anywhere.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't see any ads for him. I didn't see anything on Facebook. I didn't get any texts for him. I didn't get anything at all for him. He didn't get on any of our, Me Truth. He didn't. It just didn't look like it. Looked like maybe he thought that he had that more secure than he actually did, obviously.
Right. And I wondered, too, I talked with somebody about some of these candidates that felt like they were polling pretty well or that they were close. I'm sure a lot of them, especially in this governor's race, they're holding on to as much money as they can, knowing that it's going to take a lot of money to beat Beshear. And so, but I think some of these races showed us that maybe that ground game is becoming more and more effective, and the money is not as effective as it has been in the past. And we saw that with the elections in 2022 take place with some of the freshmen that we have in there in the House. And so it may be that one-on-one, face-to-face is becoming so important to people, because I think people are struggling with, who do I trust? They're aggravated with the way things have been going in the past. We had the 2020 election that there was so much chaos around, and I'm constantly encouraging people to engage. Even if you don't trust the system, we have to continue to engage, and that's a message that I continue to spread. And it may be that money is not the end all be all in politics, as some people have thought in the past.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think that end game is absolutely vital. The first year that I won, if I recall correctly, we knocked 11,000 doors.
Oh, wow.
And that was the only way, absolutely only way that I won that election. And I can guarantee you that was the only way. And to your point, even in Hardin County, where we had the judge executive race, where Daniel Landon actually raised like $300,000.
Right.
And then Keith Tall, he raised I don't even know now, like 60, 70,000, even that. And so it's just where the money does not matter as much as actually getting out and meeting with the people and answering people's questions and being consistent with your messaging. And therefore, the more consistent you are, then therefore, the more that people can trust you to do what you say that you're going to do when you get elected.
Right. And maybe that's why we're seeing, some of the candidates not perform as well in general elections, maybe nationwide, because they don't have that personal trust with the people. You've seen a lot. The past midterm election didn't turn out as well as people had predicted. And it wasn't because that the Republicans didn't have sufficient reason to go to the polls, or the Democrats didn't have sufficient reason to stay home. The incumbents, a lot of times that won, it seemed like that people just intentionally did not vote for the Republican candidate. And so it seems like having that very solid, very trustworthy candidate to run in the primary and making sure they're the ones that are knocking the doors might be the path forward for us, even in statewide elections and national elections. I know that we pretty much dominate on the national. The Republicans do on the national stage, in the national elections in Kentucky. But it seems like we're on that brink of possibly losing the next generation. And how do we make sure that we have something solid in place, that we have a proven formula to overturn Democrat areas and turn them into Republican areas? And that seems maybe to be the formula going forward.
Right. And I think...
excuse me. Go ahead. Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
I was just saying, I think that some of the policy that we did this year in session is exactly aligned with what Aaron just said, because it starts with, one, getting them into this world, which is the thing that you have been such a fierce fighter for, and making sure that that life is protected. But when they get here, making sure they're not indoctrinated, making sure that their minds are kept pure and clean and clear from all the corruption that is out there. And I think that that's been a part of the battle that we're up against. It's a battle for that mind, that they know if they can get them thinking the way that they think, that when they get empowered, that they will be able to have the America that they want to have. And that is the opposite of the vision that we had. And it's so important, I think, that we engage and we fight for that. And the policy we did this year, I mean, you were a huge supporter of that. There was pieces of the bill that you definitely worked on, Senate Bill 150, and that, we tried to make it a little bit stronger and didn't succeed in that, but that doesn't mean we're not going to come back next session and try it again. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. And I think, how many times have you heard the do nothing Republicans? I mean, we hear that term all the time, and it is so easy once we get elected. It's so easy to become afraid and, am I going to get reelected? But if you just continue to do the right thing and do what you say you're going to do and stand behind the Constitution bravely and strongly, and stand behind, again, the preservation of life, the preservation of the innocence of our children. If somebody's going to not elect me after we work, and you, Josh, after we work so hard to just do those things, then obviously we're not, fit for the job anyway, because we've stand behind our convictions every day.
Right.
And I think that that's what we were elected to do, and for us not to be afraid once we get there.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah, the boldness is key to what we are doing. If you're not bold, or you stand off in the shadows, you'll get pulled into just doing enough to get by, or doing what you're doing to get reelected. A good policy gets people reelected, and whenever you come to the place that you're not interested in good policy for the state,
right,
why would we be there? I mean, why would we even be there if we were not trying to advance things, one, that are constitutional, things that are Christian and are wholesome and are family oriented, and all of those types of things. We've seen such a breakdown in the family, and I believe it's because there's no concern for life. It breaks down there.
Yes. Y'all are both legislators. Do y'all have maybe some dreams or wishes for Daniel Cameron, we'll say, when he gets in office, as far as pro-life legislation? I know for the general public that isn't a big deal, but it is a bigger deal to a lot of people than the media likes to report. Do y'all have some goals for Kentucky? I know everybody was so frustrated that cares about this issue whenever churches were shut down and Andy Beshear was keeping abortion clinics open. He's obviously trying to stack the deck in favor of the abortion clinics. Is there something that y'all have in mind that y'all is kind of like a wish between the governorship and the legislature for that?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've talked in depth with the Attorney General and his staff, and one of the things that the AG is adamant about is that the abortion clinics have been shut down indefinitely.
Yeah.
And so I've asked him, because I want to make sure that I'm communicating the same message. And the reason why they are, and so the good thing is, obviously, the trigger law shut the abortion clinics down in August of last year. And then we had the heartbeat bill that was passed in 2019, which was and that was basically, some people have referred to that as the 6-week bill. And so that heartbeat bill is actually the Kentucky the Kentucky Supreme Court upheld our heartbeat bill that was passed in 2019.
Right.
So since they upheld that, then the abortion clinics have said that it is not profitable for them to be open because, as you know, most women don't even know that they're pregnant before 6 weeks.
Yes. Right.
And so that is just, so the abortion clinics have been shut down indefinitely. So regardless of what happens with the trigger law, or regardless of what happens with any of our other legislation that we've passed for the pro-life, from the pro-life perspective, the abortion clinics are shut down indefinitely.
Exactly.
And, I just,
every day.
Praise the Lord for that. Absolutely praise the Lord for that.
Is that for sure? Does indefinitely, because when I hear indefinitely, then that, leaves open the door that it might come back at some point. Does that mean that they're done forever?
Well, the only way that can happen is for the Supreme Court to make a different ruling to overturn our heartbeat bill.
Right. So there's
so even if they overturn, even if they don't stand behind our trigger law, just with our heartbeat bill alone, the 6-week bill, then the abortion clinics are shut down indefinitely.
Right. And there's no, of course, you have a fear. We lived for 50 years under Roe v. Wade.
Right.
So you always think that there's a way for it to work out. So would they be able to overturn that bill ever, or is it?
Yeah. So just like Roe v. Wade was readdressed, then in the future, the Kentucky Supreme Court or the federal Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, would have to rule back in favor of Roe v. Wade again.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's, we're not going to say that that's not possible. It certainly is possible.
Well, and the history of Kentucky that we have, it's rare to have Republican governors. It seems like possibly there might be a door there to make sure that nothing ever happens to bring back abortion ever again in Kentucky. That might be a possibility. I don't know. Well,
absolutely. And we can't let down our guard. I'll just say that, it's going to be something that we're constantly having to work with, even like in cases like, the abortion pill. The abortion pill, 60% of the abortions are being conducted by the abortion pills. Right. In the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the abortion pills are illegal for distribution, yet somehow our ladies are still getting those pills given to them. So what I believe is happening is that those pills are being subsidized by the U.S., by the Medicare, Medicaid. Oh, yeah. Because of the FDA ruling. Right. And so since they're being subsidized, then they're being freely distributed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, and at this point, so to your point, one of the things that we have looked at, and we had some legislation that we were prepared to file during this session that would prohibit our ladies going to Indiana or to Illinois or to another state and actually having those abortions conducted in different states. So we had legislation that we were prepared to file for this 2023 session that we didn't do, that we backed off of. Yeah. But other states are actually passing that legislation. And so I think that that should be something that should, if nothing else, be filed for the 2024 session. And that is, God willing, that'll pass through the legislative branch. And then that would be something that absolutely we would need our Attorney General and our governor to support.
That's good. And the other thing, along with what you were saying there, is there's also going to be this push toward exceptions. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to see. There was a bill filed this session in regard to exceptions. I think Nancy and I think we share the same principle there in regard to no exceptions, that every life is a life and we treat it as such.
Right.
And so currently under the trigger law, the life of the mother is the exception that is there. I know that there's been people that have been interested in seeing that change and add some more exceptions to that.
Right.
Some of us are prepared for that fight to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And we need to
absolutely, you're absolutely right. And I tell you, even from and it's so easy for people to get confused. At the national level, let's just use like National Right to Life. National Right to Life is still encouraging us to be incremental. And so the part of that incrementalism is to support exceptions. One of the things that I keep influencing upon everyone is, obviously there's 50 states, 29 states do not have any language that protects life in the womb.
Wow.
So if you've got 29 states that don't, 15 of which Kentucky's one of them, we are completely banned, and then there's the ones in the middle. So the 29 states is where you still have to be incremental.
Yes.
Or should be incremental.
Yes.
There's no point in being incremental in Kentucky when you've won.
Right.
When you've won the fight, do nothing but maintain where you're at.
Right.
Stay where you're at because you've won. It's kind of like, if you if you're playing baseball and you run across home plate, why would you go back to third?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they're asking us to do at the national level, is to go back to third. And I'm like, no way, we're not doing that. We've won the fight. Now we're just going to maintain and make sure that as the Commonwealth, that we ensure that we have a pro-life Supreme Court at the state level and at the federal level.
Well, and what I would believe as a Christian is that the people who oppose this, the driving forces behind it, I won't say everybody because I don't know, but the driving forces behind it are the opposite of good. They're evil, that would desire to have more and more and more abortions. I'm not saying that every person, but we know the spiritual wickedness behind that is what we would say.
Right.
Then that is evil. And so we know that any place that we give up, not just in the legislatures, and y'all are there on the front lines fighting, but even for us personally, any place where we give up in our communities, then the other side takes advantage of it.
Right.
If we go back to third, they're going to do everything they can to get the 3 outs and take over the next inning, using the baseball reference there.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And I just think that, it's so easy for us, instead of to use logic, it's so easy for us to be consumed by our emotions. And so frequently we don't understand that, regardless of how big you are or how small you are, that your life isn't any more valuable. And I love this example. This was used at Clarity Solutions at the gala. The guest speaker that was speaking there actually said, so if we want to say that a baby in the womb, that baby doesn't matter because it's small and it's dependent. Well, so does that mean that since I'm 5 foot tall, that my life is less valuable than yours?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Absolutely. And where I'm at, or how big I am, or how small I am, doesn't value my weight.
Right.
So are we my weight that's not based upon value, or value based upon weight.
Right.
So what do? Are we weighing people? Are we valuing people based upon a price tag, based upon pound, like we do with hamburger?
Yeah.
And so when you start having a lot of those conversations with people and just asking those questions, and trying to influence upon them that maybe that we need to think about this a little deeper, then I think that it probably helps people a lot just to let's just stop and let's think about this, and let's talk about what we're really saying. What are we really saying?
And the thing that I get frustrated by personally, because I talk to people, in our business that come in and you hear all types of political opinions, but I get frustrated with the fact that the burden of proof is on me to prove that a baby is a baby. And it's not on the Democrats. The burden of proof should be on them to prove to me that when it's in the womb that it's not a baby. How can you prove that? Because whenever it's born, it is a baby, right? At the ultrasound, it's a baby. Looks like a baby to me. It has a heartbeat and it's a baby. That's what it is. So we've gotten into this place where, we have to prove that a trans woman, as they call it, is not a woman. Why is the burden of proof on me to prove that? Why is the burden of proof on me to prove that the baby in the womb is not a life? You have to have scientific evidence. You can't just rename it as a fetus and then all of a sudden that wins the argument.
Right.
You know? So, but there doesn't seem to be that kind of accountability especially on a national level.
Exactly. And, Nancy, it would be awesome. It's going to be awesome to have someone in the executive branch that is aligned with that kind of policy that we're moving forward. And so I'm just going to come out right now and endorse Daniel Cameron for the general election.
What a brave move! Yeah.
Amen. Absolutely.
No, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to have this behind us now that we know where we're at, and to get behind this campaign. It is hard as a legislator. It's hard sometimes. I was talking earlier about the agriculture race with being on the agriculture committee, or used to be, and the fact that Jonathan Shell had brought me into the legislature the first time, and he was the first face that I met. And sometimes those relationships make it really hard in a primary because you like both of the people or whatever is going on. But being at this juncture, having it behind us, 100% behind Daniel Cameron, and I look forward to doing everything that I can do within my power to make sure that he gets elected come November.
Amen.
Absolutely. Me too. Absolutely. I'm really excited about, tomorrow, or actually, yesterday, today. I especially after I saw all the questionnaires and how the candidates respond to those questionnaires. I mean, I've tried to stay out of the primary, especially for the gubernatorial race. But whenever I saw those questionnaires, without a doubt, I started campaigning hard for Daniel Cameron.
That's good.
Nope, I'm excited.
To your point, it's going to be a breath of fresh air when he's elected, and we'll have somebody who is thinking logically and thinking what is the best for the future of Kentucky. And I'm really excited about that.
Yes. So here it is. Daniel Cameron is the Republican nominee for the governor. We have the Secretary of State race. Michael Adams is the incumbent there and has won that. Miss Allison Ball is the auditor nominee, and she's already been there, so we know what kind of history that she has and the job that she's done as treasurer. Mark Metcalf as treasurer, and then Jonathan Shell winning the ag commissioner race. And so those will be the Republican candidates come November. So want to encourage everybody to make sure you get out and you participate, you vote. And Nancy, do you have any last words that you would like to leave to the public?
Yeah, the only thing that I want to add too, and I totally agree with you, is that the Attorney General candidate is Russell Coleman.
Yes.
And Russell Coleman, he has an amazing resume. And so I look forward to being able to campaign hard for Russell Coleman as well, because he has like I said, an amazing resume. He's got a proven track record, and he will do amazing and be a great Attorney General for Kentucky. And I'm looking forward to working with him as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. He didn't have a primary race. He is going up against Representative Pamela Stevenson in the general. But I've met Russell a few times already, and I absolutely like him a lot. He is, it seems like a very genuine person, a very real person. He's extremely qualified for the position. He's a believer. He's not bashful about that at all. He's been very bold about that. Everywhere that I've been with that he has spoken, he's been clear on that. And so absolutely look forward to supporting him as well. And I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Seeing what we can do come January. I've got some things I already have in mind for sure. We had some things that were left undone last year. Senate Bill 115 that Senator Lindsey Titchener had filed, and that actually made it through the Senate. I think we'll bring back, and my heart, my passion is protecting these kids and their innocence, and that's where I continue to fight. And then we've got the school choice bill that's coming next session as well, that it looks like, from all conversations that will be the priority of the session, and maybe House Bill 2, 3, 4, somewhere in that range, but a lot of momentum going there. So we're looking forward to a good session, and having a total executive branch and every constitutional officer there to support our principles and beliefs will make it a great year.
Absolutely. And to your point too, Senate Bill 150, while it wasn't as solid as we wanted it to be, I think we should refile a lot of that language, 470 and some of the bills that you filed. I think we should file them again and make that language a lot stronger and a lot more definitive than what Senate Bill 150 walked out then.
They can't kick everybody off the committee. So,
hey, no, that's right.
Somebody's got to be there.
The Senate Bill 5 is one that comes to mind. And I'll let you go after this, I promise. But the Senate Bill 5, the bill that was passed to deal with obscene material in schools, in the public schools, and it gives a method by which parents can have books removed and those types of things. The more and more that I am seeing in our school system in regard to some of these books that are making it into our libraries, and not just in Kentucky, this is across the United States of America. I was looking at a bill that was passed this morning, and I can't remember which state it was in right now, but it was I think it was Texas, but it was a strong bill that just straight up required, it laid out what's considered obscene and pornographic, and it just requires to get it out. It's not just a parent having to complain, but it just removes it out of the system completely. Right. And so, yeah, I think there's some language and things that we can do to strengthen that. We've got a budget year coming up as well, so we're all going to be focused on that, those economic policies, and that Governor Beshear seems to be taking all the credit for that we've put in place. So.
Well, sometimes whenever, we knew we had to do the right thing. We had that conversation of we can do the right thing and he could take all the credit for it, or we can make sure that and not do the right thing and then he'll be a dismal failure. And we knew that we had to do the right thing, knowing that he would take credit for it. So that's okay. We can set the record straight.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, and look forward to fighting with you for Daniel Cameron to be our next governor.
That sounds wonderful. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it. Bye. Thank you. Good night.
Great lady. She's a great lady.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's really a good lady. Strong fighter. She's committed and works as hard as anybody in the legislature. Thank you for watching the Josh Calloway podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to get as much information out as we can about what is going on in our state, in our communities, and across the country. If you will like, share, subscribe to this podcast, you can be notified as soon as a new podcast comes out. Tell your friends, tell your family about it. We would love to have more people participating and more people informed about what is taking place. Thank you, and God bless.